Galactic Empire tried threatening human ships. Humanity just laughed back. Part 1. The Ultimatum. Commander Teo of the human fleet receives an encrypted transmission from the Valorian Galactic Empire. The message is clear. Humanity has violated Imperial space and must surrender all human colonies within 48 hours or face complete annihilation. The Empire sends holograms of their dreadnoughts, massive warships capable of destroying planets, as a show of force. Captain Min-Q, Teo's second-in-command, briefs the crew on the impossible odds. Back on Earth, Admiral Ji-Wan watches the transmission with her war cabinet and realizes they have no conventional way to match the Empire's firepower. Yet something in her eyes shifts, a glint of determination mixed with an idea that borders on genius. Part 2. Humanity's Unexpected Response. Instead of panicking or surrendering, the human coalition does something no galactic power expected. They laugh. Not dismissively, but the kind of laughter born from confidence. Commander Teo personally responds to the Valorian ultimatum, broadcasting it across every human channel. He outlines humanity's counterproposal with calm detail. Humans will not leave, and the Valorians have exactly 24 hours to reconsider their threat. Engineer Da-Un and her team have been working on something revolutionary, and Director Hai-Jin briefs the command on their breakthrough. The Valorians, accustomed to alien species cowering at their threats, are baffled by this response. They accelerate their fleet toward human space, convinced this is human foolishness born from ignorance. Part 3. The Secret Weapon. Deep within the core of human space, Dr. Wu Jin reveals what humanity has truly been developing. A revolutionary weapons system that uses quantum entanglement and AI synchronization to create a defensive grid capable of negating traditional weapons on a scale never before seen. The system, codenamed Phoenix, took 15 years and the combined efforts of the brightest minds across all colonies to complete. Captain Hyo-sung, the test pilot, runs final diagnostics while Lieutenant Kyung-soo monitors every system. What makes the Valorians unaware is that Phoenix isn't aggressive. It's purely defensive, but its capabilities extend far beyond what the Empire's fleet can comprehend. Meanwhile, Admiral Ji-Wan coordinates with Commander Teo, and they set a trap. They allow the Valorian fleet to approach within striking distance, broadcasting false distress signals to draw them in closer. Part 4. The Confrontation. The Valorian dreadnoughts emerge from hyperspace, weapons charging with devastating intent. The Empire's Supreme Commander Krell, who has conquered dozens of species, is confident that this will be a swift execution. But as their first volley launches toward human positions, something extraordinary happens. The Phoenix system activates across 1,000 points simultaneously. The weapon's fire is completely absorbed by quantum shields that shimmer like auroras across human space. What follows is not an attack, it's a demonstration. The human fleet, using coordinated AI systems piloted by soldiers like Captain Hyo-sung and supported by tactical genius Commander Teo, performs a precision maneuver that disables the Valorian ship's weapon systems without firing a single lethal shot. The Empire watches helplessly as their supposedly invincible armada is neutralized in moments. Part 5. The Message. With the Valorian fleet rendered defenseless and drifting, humanity broadcasts its message across all galactic networks. Admiral Ji-Wan, cool and measured, speaks directly to Supreme Commander Krell and every alien civilization watching. She explains that humans didn't build Phoenix to conquer. They built it because they never agreed to be conquered. She outlines humanity's proposition. The Valorian Empire can withdraw immediately and establish diplomatic relations with the human coalition as equals, or they can watch their fleet be systematically dismantled. Captain Min-Q coordinates rescue operations, picking up stranded Valorian crews with honor and treating them as prisoners of war. not slaves. Dr. Wu Jin and engineer Da Un stand by their creation, watching its success with quiet pride. The message ripples through the galaxy. A species that was supposed to be insignificant has just rewritten the rules of power. Part 6. A New Order. Supreme Commander Krell makes the only logical choice and orders his fleet to stand down. The Valorian Empire, for the first time in 3 centuries, negotiates as equals rather than conquerors. Commander Teo and Director Hai Jin lead the diplomatic efforts, establishing the first treaty between the human coalition and the Valorian Empire on mutually respectful terms. Other alien civilizations, inspired by humanity's peaceful yet undeniable strength, begin reaching out for alliances rather than submission. Back on Earth and across the colonies, humanity celebrates not with violence or conquest, but with the knowledge that they've changed their place in the galaxy through innovation, unity, and the refusal to accept limitations. Admiral Jiwan reflects on the victory, knowing this is only the beginning. Humanity laughed at the Valorian threat because they knew something the Empire never expected. Sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't the one you use, but the one that proves you'll never have to. The stars shone bright above the command center of the human fleet as Commander Teo sat in his chair, staring at the screens before him. It was late in the evening, and most of the crew had gone to rest. The only sound was the soft beeping of the machines that kept the massive space station running. Teo was a tall man with short black hair and calm eyes that had seen many battles. He had served humanity for over 20 years, and in that time he had learned that patience was more important than strength. Around him, the vast control room stretched out with dozens of screens showing star maps, ship positions, and energy readings from across the human territories. These were the colonies that humanity had built over the last 100 years. People had left Earth in search of new worlds, new hope, and new chances for their families. Now, those worlds were home to billions of humans spread across 20 star systems. Captain Min Q entered the command center, walking quickly with a serious expression on his face. Min Q was younger than Teo, only 35 years old, but he was sharp and quick-thinking. He had been Teo's second-in-command for the past 5 years, and Teo trusted him completely. Something was wrong. Teo could see it in the way Min Q moved, in the tension in his shoulders. "Commander, we have an incoming message," Min Q said, stopping in front of Teo's chair. "It is encrypted and marked as urgent. We have been trying to trace where it comes from, but the signal is being hidden. All I can tell you is that it is coming from beyond our borders, from deep space." Teo nodded slowly. Beyond their borders meant unknown territory. There were many alien civilizations out there, but contact with most of them had been limited. Humanity kept to their own space, and most other species left them alone. This was unusual. "Play the message," Teo commanded. Min-Q moved to the communications console and entered a code. The main screen flashed with light, and then an image appeared. It showed a massive ship, so large that it made the viewer feel very small. The ship was dark gray with sharp edges and weapons points that stuck out like spikes. It was the most frightening ship Teo had ever seen. A voice spoke from the speakers, deep and commanding, with an accent that was clearly not human. "I am Supreme Commander Krell of the Valorian Galactic Empire. Your species has made a grave mistake. You have entered our space and built your colonies without permission. This is not allowed. You have 48 hours to leave all our territories. You must take your people and go back to where you came from. If you do not obey this command, we will destroy you completely. We will erase your fleet and your colonies from existence. We have conquered 100 worlds, and we will crush you as easily as we crush insects." The screen showed many more ships now, a massive fleet of dreadnoughts that filled the entire view. They were arranged in a perfect line, and they looked absolutely unbeatable. The weapons on each ship were enormous, and Teo could see scorch marks on some of them. the marks of past battles. The message continued. You are small and weak. Your technology is primitive compared to ours. I am giving you the chance to live, but only if you leave immediately. After 48 hours, mercy will no longer be an option. You will be given to history as a species that was too foolish to obey a simple command. The screen went black. Silence filled the command center. None of the officers spoke. They all understood what they had just seen and heard. The Valorian Galactic Empire was real, and it was powerful beyond anything they had imagined. This was not a small threat. This was an empire that had conquered 100 worlds. This was a power that humanity could not fight against with weapons and soldiers. Min-Q looked at Taiyo. What do we do, Commander? Taiyo sat quietly for a long moment. He thought about the people in the colonies. He thought about the families that had built homes on those distant worlds. He thought about the children who played under alien suns and dreamed of futures that seemed safe and peaceful. And then he thought about what it would mean to surrender all of that. Send a message to Admiral G1 on Earth, Taiyo said calmly. Tell her about the threat, include the full recording, then assemble the War Council. We have many options to discuss. Over the next few hours, the command center became busier and busier. More officers arrived. Scientists who studied alien technology came to examine the message and the images of the Valorian fleet. Military strategists looked at star maps and tried to find ways to defend their territories. But as the hours passed, it became clear that no one had a good answer. The Valorian fleet was simply too strong. However, as the night grew deeper, something changed. Word came from Earth. Admiral G1 had received the message and had called together the leaders of all the human colonies. The response from Earth was not one of panic. Instead, it was one of calm determination. The message that came back to Taiyo was simple. Do not surrender. Humanity had not come to the stars to run away. They had come to build, to grow, and to make their own future. Taiyo read the message to his War Council. The reaction was one of surprise, but also of understanding. These were brave people who had chosen to leave Earth and face the unknown. They would not give up now. Then something even more interesting happened. Engineer Da-Un, who worked in the deep science laboratories, sent a message to Taiyo. She had been working on a secret project for many years, and she thought it was time to tell the commander about it. She requested a private meeting. When Taiyo met with Da-Un, his eyes widened with shock. She showed him plans and designs that seemed to defy belief. There was a defensive system that could protect human space from weapons attacks. It was based on new science, on discoveries that had been made in secret and hidden away from public knowledge. The system was not yet fully ready, but it was close. Very close. As Taiyo listened to Da-Un explain how the system worked, something shifted inside him. Humanity might not be as helpless as they seemed. The Valorian Empire had made a mistake by assuming that humans were weak just because they were fewer in number. They had not counted on human creativity, on the ability to think in new ways and to solve impossible problems. Taiyo looked out at the stars through the viewport of the command center. The Valorian fleet was coming. That much was certain. In 48 hours, they would arrive and demand an answer. But Taiyo was no longer afraid. He was ready to give them an answer that they would never forget. The morning sun never reached the broadcast station deep in space, but the light from the screens was bright enough to show the faces of everyone gathered in the room. Commander Taiyo stood at the center of the space, surrounded by the best communication officers in the human fleet. They had 24 hours now, not 48. The countdown had begun, and every minute mattered. Captain Min-Q stood beside his commander, holding a datapad that contained the message they were about to send to the Valorian Empire. It was the most important message humanity would ever broadcast into the stars. It had been written and rewritten 100 times. Every word had been chosen carefully. Every sentence had been tested to make sure it sent the right message. "Are you sure about this?" Min-Kyu whispered to Tayo. "Once we send this, there is no taking it back. The Empire will see that we refuse to surrender. They will attack." Tayo nodded. His face was calm, but his mind was racing with 1,000 thoughts. "I am sure. If we show fear now, we show weakness. The Empire respects strength. We will show them that humanity is stronger than they think." All across the human territories, the message was being prepared. On Earth, Admiral Ji-won sat in the highest government building and watched the same message on her screen. She had approved every word. In the colonies spread across 20 star systems, families gathered around their communication screens. Children asked their parents what was happening. Parents held their children close and tried to stay calm, even though fear was building in their hearts like a rising tide. Then, at the agreed time, Commander Tayo gave the signal. The message began to broadcast. His voice was clear and strong as he spoke into the camera. "I am Commander Tayo of the Human Coalition. I speak for all humanity, from Earth to our farthest colonies. We have received your message, Supreme Commander Krell. We have heard your threat, and we understand that the Valorian Empire believes itself to be all-powerful. But I must tell you something that perhaps you have forgotten in your many conquests. Humanity does not surrender easily. We did not travel across the stars to bow down to any power, no matter how great that power might seem." The commander paused for a moment, letting the words sink in. Across the galaxy, aliens in 1,000 different civilizations received this message. Many of them were shocked. No one spoke to the Valorian Empire this way. No species dared to refuse their demands. "You have demanded that we leave our homes," Tayo continued. "But these homes are not borrowed. We built them ourselves. We worked for them. We bled for them. And we will not abandon them based on a threat. Instead, I am offering you a different choice. You have 24 hours to reconsider your attack. You have 1 day to withdraw your fleet and join us in peaceful discussion. If you do this, we can establish trade and friendship. But if you choose to attack, we will have no choice but to defend ourselves." Min-Kyu watched his commander's face as he spoke. Tayo was taking the biggest risk of his life, but he showed no sign of doubt. This was why he was a great leader. "We are not asking for mercy," Tayo said, and now his voice became even more serious. "We are not begging for our lives. We are simply telling you the truth. Humanity will not be conquered. We will not disappear quietly into the night. We choose to live. We choose to fight if we must. And we choose to decide our own future." The message ended with a signal that was as clear as any military command. Humanity was ready. In the Valorian Empire's main command ship, Supreme Commander Krell watched the message with shock and fury. How dare this small species refuse his command? How dare they speak to him with such confidence? Krell had conquered 100 worlds. He had seen species that were far more advanced than humans bow before his power. And yet this commander was laughing at him. But wait, he had not laughed. That was strange. There had been confidence in his voice, yes. There had been determination, certainly. But there was something else, too. Something that made Krell feel uncertain, even though he would never admit such a thing. This human commander was not afraid. He was not afraid at all. "Forward the fleet," Krell commanded. "Prepare all weapons. We will arrive at human space in 18 hours. Let us see if they are still so confident when they see our fire filling their sky." But across human space, something very different was happening. After the message had been sent, Commander Tayo called together the team of engineers and scientists who had been working on the secret project. Engineer Da-un, Director Hai-jin, and Dr. Woo-jin were brought to the command center. They carried with them a glowing device that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie rather than in a real space station. "What is that?" Min-Q asked. That, Teo said with the first smile anyone had seen on his face since the crisis began, is hope. That is the reason why I could tell the Valorian Empire that we would defend ourselves. That is why I knew we could refuse to surrender. Engineer Da-Un stepped forward, and she began to explain what the device was, how it worked, and why it had been kept secret for so long. As she spoke, the command center became alive with energy and excitement. Officers who had been terrified moments before now began to see a path forward. The countdown continued. 18 hours until the Valorian fleet arrived. 18 hours until humanity would face the greatest test of its existence. But now humanity was not facing that test alone. They had a secret, and that secret might be enough to change everything. All across human space, people began to gather in public squares and in homes. They did not know all the details, but they knew that their leaders had not given up. They knew that humanity would fight. And in that knowledge, something powerful was born. It was not fear. It was determination. It was hope. It was the spirit of a species that had chosen to stand tall rather than kneel down. Deep underground, beneath the surface of the main human colony world, there was a place that almost no one knew about. It was called the Phoenix Facility, and it had been built in secret for 15 years. The walls were thick enough to withstand a direct weapon strike. The air was clean and controlled by machines that worked day and night. And in the center of this facility was a sight that would have amazed any scientist in the galaxy. Dr. Wu Jin walked through the corridors of the Phoenix facility with Commander Taiyo and Captain Min-Q. The doctor was an older man, with gray hair and glasses that reflected the light from the glowing walls around them. He had devoted his entire life to this project, and he had done it without any public recognition or reward. Now, finally, the world would know what he had created. The system is called Phoenix, Dr. Wu Jin explained as they walked. It was named after the bird from human mythology that burns itself and is reborn from its own ashes. That is what we believe humanity will do when this system is activated. We will seem defeated, but we will rise again, stronger than before. They entered the main control room of the facility. It was enormous, stretching out for what seemed like miles. Hundreds of screens covered every wall, each one showing different information. Complex mathematics flowed across some of the screens, while others displayed technical diagrams that seemed to contain secrets of the universe itself. 5 years ago, Dr. Wu Jin continued, we made a discovery in quantum physics that changed everything. We learned how to manipulate the space between atoms in a way that had never been done before. We learned how to create something we call quantum shields. These shields are invisible, but they can stop any kind of weapon that we know about. Captain Min-Q's eyes widened as he listened. You mean the shields can stop the Valorian weapons? The weapons we saw in their transmission? Yes, Dr. Wu Jin said. In fact, our analysis of their weapons suggests that the quantum shields will actually become stronger when they are attacked by the kinds of weapons the Valorian Empire uses. The more powerful the attack, the stronger our shields will be. It is like asking fire to destroy water. It is not possible. Teo listened carefully. He understood that this was revolutionary technology, but he needed to know if it would work in reality, not just in theory. How confident are you, Dr. Wu Jin? This is our entire species we are talking about. If your system fails, if the shields do not work, then humanity will end. I need to know if you believe in this technology completely. Dr. Wu Jin removed his glasses and cleaned them slowly. When he put them back on, his eyes looked directly at Teo. Commander, I have spent 15 years developing this technology. I have tested it thousands of times. My team and I have checked every calculation, every theory, every possible failure point. I do not believe in this technology the way some people believe in religion. I know it will work. I am certain of it as I am certain that the sun rises in the morning. Teo nodded. That was the answer he needed to hear. The doctor led them deeper into the facility, to a section where the actual device sat. It was not a single machine, but a network of machines spread across the entire human territories. The central core was housed here, but it was connected to thousands of smaller stations across human space. Each station had been built in secret, hidden under mountains and inside asteroids and beneath the surface of planets. The system works by creating a defensive grid, Dr. Wu Jin explained. When activated, it will form an invisible shield around all human territory. Any weapon that enters this shield will be absorbed by the quantum field. The energy will be captured and stored. In theory, the more energy the enemy fires at us, the more energy we will be able to use to power our own systems. Engineer Da-un joined them in the control room. She was a young woman with intelligent eyes and quick, efficient movements. She had been the one to help construct the thousands of small stations that made the Phoenix system work. Without her work, the entire project would have failed. "We are ready," Da-un said. "All systems are functioning at full capacity. The network is stable. We can activate Phoenix whenever Commander Teo gives the order." Captain Minkyu asked the question that was on everyone's mind. "What about attacking the Valorian fleet? The shields are defensive, but what if we need to attack them?" Dr. Wu Jin smiled. "That is where the system becomes interesting. The quantum shields will not just protect us. They will also allow us to learn about the Valorian technology. As their weapons strike our shields, we will be able to analyze every aspect of their design, every weakness, every flaw. And once we understand their technology, we will be able to create weapons that can stop them." Teo walked to the main screen and looked at the real-time tracking data for the Valorian fleet. The Empire's ships were still coming, still moving toward human space with certainty and confidence. They had no idea what was waiting for them. They had no idea that humanity had spent 15 years preparing a response that would change the course of the war before the first shot was fired. "How long until the fleet arrives?" Teo asked. 12 hours now," Minkyu replied. "Then we have 12 hours to prepare," Teo said. "Dr. Wu Jin, I want the Phoenix system on standby. We will activate it the moment the Valorian fleet enters our territory. Engineer Da-un, make sure that all backup systems are working. Captain Minkyu, coordinate with all human fleet captains. We need to be ready for anything." As the officers moved to carry out their orders, Dr. Wu Jin approached Teo privately. "Commander, I want you to understand something. This technology is powerful, but it is not a weapon of war. It is a shield. It protects. And that is what makes humanity special. We did not create this to conquer others. We created it to survive, to protect our people and our homes. That is why I believe it will work. Because we built it with the right purpose." Teo placed a hand on the doctor's shoulder. "That is exactly what humanity needs to hear, Dr. Wu Jin. That is why we will win this fight. Not because we are stronger, but because we are fighting for the right reasons." Outside the facility, in the darkness of space, the Valorian fleet continued its advance. Supreme Commander Krell was confident that the humans would be easy to defeat. He had no idea that humanity had just activated the most powerful defensive system in the known galaxy. He had no idea that his great fleet was sailing directly into a trap made of science and hope. The stars around human space began to shimmer. It was a subtle change, so small that most people would not notice it. But Commander Teo saw it immediately on his screens. The Valorian fleet was dropping out of hyperspace. They had arrived. For a moment, the command center was completely silent. Everyone held their breath. They could see the massive dreadnoughts appearing on the screens, one by one, like dark clouds gathering before a storm. The ships were enormous, exactly as they had appeared in the transmission that Krell had sent. But this time, the ships seemed even more threatening because they were real. They were close, and they were preparing to attack. Captain Hyo Sung sat in the cockpit of a fighter ship that was positioned at the edge of human territory. She was the test pilot for the Phoenix system, and she had trained her entire life for this moment. Her hands rested on the controls of her ship, steady and calm. She had flown missions in battles before, but this was different. This mission would decide the fate of all humanity. "All pilots, stand by," came a voice over the communication channel. It was Lieutenant Kyung-soo, who was coordinating the fighter response. "We are waiting for Phoenix activation. Maintain current positions. Do not engage the enemy until we receive the signal." In the command center, Commander Teo watched as the Valorian fleet organized itself into attack formation. There were 12 massive dreadnoughts, each one bristling with weapons. Around them were dozens of support ships, smaller but still powerful, still deadly. This was a military force that had conquered 100 worlds. This was an empire that had never been defeated. The main communication channel opened. The face of Supreme Commander Krell appeared on the screen. He looked angry, his expression twisted with fury at the refusal of the humans to surrender. "You have made your choice," Krell said. "Now you will face the consequences. All ships, open fire." The command was given, and immediately the space around human territory erupted with light and energy. Thousands of weapons fired at once. Laser beams that could cut through steel. Missiles that traveled faster than sound, energy bolts that seemed to contain the power of stars themselves, all converged on human space like a flood of destruction heading toward the shore. "Phoenix activation now," Teo commanded, and he spoke with complete confidence. The quantum shields activated. It happened in a way that could not be easily explained with words. The entire space around human territory suddenly began to glow. The light was blue and green, shimmering like the northern lights on Earth. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Every weapon that the Valorian fleet had fired suddenly came into contact with the quantum shields, and what happened next shocked everyone who was watching. The weapons did not penetrate. They did not explode or create massive damage. Instead, they were absorbed. The light of the shields grew brighter as they took in the energy of thousands of weapons. Captain Hyo Sung, watching from her fighter ship, saw something that no human had ever seen before. She saw the power of technology that had been kept secret for 15 years suddenly unleashed on the galaxy stage. "The shields are holding," Dr. Wu Jin reported from the Phoenix facility. His voice was steady, but there was deep emotion behind it. "All systems nominal. The enemy weapons are being absorbed at optimal rates. Power levels are rising, not falling. The system is working exactly as we predicted." Supreme Commander Krell's face on the communication screen went pale. For the first time in his long military career, he saw something that he did not understand. The humans should have been destroyed. Their colonies should have been burning. Their fleet should have been nothing but dust and wreckage. But instead, their shields were glowing brighter, and their systems seemed to be growing stronger with each attack. "Continue firing," Krell ordered. "All weapons! Maximum intensity!" The Valorian fleet fired again, even more weapons than before. This time, they used their most powerful weapons, the ones that they saved for the most dangerous enemies. But the result was the same. The quantum shields absorbed everything. They grew brighter, they grew stronger, and humanity remained untouched. In the command center, Captain Min Q turned to look at Commander Teo. There was a small smile on both their faces. They had known this would happen. They had believed in the science. They had believed in their people. But seeing it actually happen was different. It was like a dream becoming real. "All human ships advance into position," Teo commanded. "We are going to show the Valorian Empire exactly who they are dealing with." The human fighter ships, piloted by soldiers like Captain Hyo Sung, began to move forward. They passed through the quantum shields as if they did not exist, because the shields recognized them, protected them, and let them pass. As they advanced toward the Valorian fleet, they began a coordinated maneuver that had been planned and practiced hundreds of times. Captain Hyo Sung and her fellow pilots flew with perfect precision. They did not fire weapons. They did not try to destroy the Valorian ships. Instead, they used a tactic that was far more effective. They used electromagnetic pulses and precision strikes to disable the Valorian weapons systems. One by one, the massive dreadnoughts found their weapons shutting down. The great cannons that had conquered 100 worlds fell silent. The missile launchers that had destroyed entire armies stopped working. Within 30 minutes, the most powerful military force in the galaxy was rendered helpless. The Valorian fleet drifted in space, their weapons offline, their shields failing, their ships damaged by their own weapons striking the quantum barriers and then reflecting back at them. The empire that had seemed invincible only hours before now floated like a crippled giant in the darkness of space. Supreme Commander Krell stared at his blank screens. His entire fleet was disabled. His weapons were useless. For the first time in 300 years, the Valorian Empire had been defeated, but they had not been destroyed. The humans had defeated them without even killing a single Valorian soldier. They had shown mercy when they could have shown destruction. In the command center on human territory, Commander Teo looked at the disabled Valorian fleet and made a decision. Captain Min-Kyu, send out rescue ships. We will save the Valorian crew. They are now prisoners of war, and we will treat them with honor. They came here expecting to conquer us, but we will show them something different. We will show them compassion.